Joining me now here live at CPAC is the chairman of the Conservative Political Action Conference. He is also a contributor for Fox News, an occasional contributor for CNN, but sometimes he's too tough for CNN, so they throw him out, and they get me in, who they can kick around a little bit easier.
That's not true. That's not true. Actually, you've been doing a great job, John. It's been an interesting year for you.
It has, and Matt Schlapp is with us. Great to have you, Matt, at the 2018 Conservative Political Action Conference. And I want to tell everybody about Matt. Now, I was, as you know, one of the earliest supporters for Donald Trump in the country. And in the 2016 CPAC, Matt got all kinds of flack because he invited the now president, then Mr. Trump, to come and speak at a key time slot, and the cruise people went crazy. But he stood up to them, and he had a big war going on inside. And you look back at that now, Matt, you were absolutely correct.
I was correct. It's amazing. And that's how people say, what's this never Trump thing? It started around CPAC. It was a pressure campaign started mostly by supporters of Marco Rubio to get me to disinvite and to get our board to disinvite Donald Trump. And that's when I realized that a big political tactic, unfortunately in America, is to try to silence people. And they thought if they could silence Donald Trump, that maybe they would prevent him from getting the nomination. And what they didn't realize is that when you silence people, or try to, you actually make them stronger. And I think people really identified that Donald Trump had to fight everyone, even his own party, to try to get a microphone and get the chance to speak. And so that when he got that microphone, people were rooting for him.
I remember you having to stand up to that intense pressure because of the position you were in as chairman of the Political Action Committee.
John, that was the first time I realized that Twitter could be mean.
It was,
and I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning looking at these just horribly nasty tweets, calling me every name in the book and everything else. I was like, this can't be legal. How are these people doing this? And my wife came down and she goes, put your phone down, go to bed, and forget about it. And I was like, oh, she's right.
That is exactly what my wife says when I go on CNN and you get 1,000 of the nastiest tweets.
They're unbelievable.
She's like, just turn it off. Like, don't even read them. Who cares what they say? Obviously, you make an impact.
There's nothing like post-CNN hit tweets. There's nothing like them. You are fat. You are ugly. You are stupid. You are corrupt. You are old. You are, it's like
bald. Except they don't say that about you. They say that about me.
Yeah.
You didn't get the bald thing. You get the hair going. But I get the fat, and I get all kinds of nasty things. But look, that was when, and I remember how you were fighting that. And I remember saying to myself, okay, this is a guy of real substance here running this organization. And then you also had the best after-debate party ever in Cleveland. I remember that one.
Oh, yeah, at the House of Blues.
The House of Blues.
That was a winner.
Best after-debate party
what was
ever.
Great. Can you imagine the ACU had the party that liberal members of the media were stumbling into after their other parties? I was like, the screw is turning here. The world is changing. We're the cool people. What's going on?
And I think it was because your party was open late, as I remember.
That's right.
Because I got there very late. I mean, the debate didn't end. The debate went on forever.
And, that was great because I called Donald Trump. And I said, hey, I always called him Mr. Trump. And I said, hey, you need to come to this. You need to come speak to our people. We're going to have a whole full crew. And a lot of those people are for you. And you're showing them great respect. And you're listening to conservatives. And you ought to come by. And he said it was great. He said, first of all, he always calls you right back. Not so much anymore because he's a little busier.
Right.
But he says, I don't know how do you think I'm going to do? If I do a bad job, I don't want to talk to anyone. I thought that's this kind of candor and honesty that's so likable about him. I was like, I have a feeling you're going to be fine. I said, are you going to make any policy announcements? He said, Matt, there's not enough time to make policy announcements. We're just going to have to go back and forth. And that's what he did. It was a good strategy.
That's right. And that was a debate which started with the Megyn Kelly question about whatever it was. And he answered with Rosie O'Donnell. But, look, these have evolved, Matt, over a long time. You've done a great job in trying to keep it together. But it's a little bit different. We used to come to these and there'd be the policy debates. Now it's basically Trump versus never Trumpers. That's basically how this is divided now.
How many never Trumpers are there, John? I think was there like 6? I mean, there are. I know there are a few dead enders, as Donald Rumsfeld once said. There are a few people that are never going to give in. It's a personal thing. They just really hate him. They'll never give him credit for any policy achievement that he gets. I get that. But there's just there's these never Trumpers are converting every week, because if you're a conservative, you cannot find disagreements with what he's doing.
Right. I mean, as you look at his policies, it's 100%. Now, what do you think of the gun debate? The president yesterday coming out, he had the White House talking session, the listening session, and he said he's open to a couple of changes, reforms, not selling firearms to people under 21 except if they're in law enforcement or the military. That was one. Strengthening and extending the background checks. That's a tough one for people not to be in favor of. Closing the gun show loophole that we've been debating forever. And, looking at ways to have teachers armed with concealed carry if they choose to do that and go through the training. That's come under some criticism. The NRA blasted a couple of those. How do you come down on that?
I think it's good to talk about these things. I'm okay with people coming up with suggestions. The left loves to use this word gun violence. There's gun in that phrase, and there's violence in that phrase.
Right.
All they want to focus on is the gun piece. If they can get rid of the gun piece, they think the violence piece goes away. We have the violence piece because we have a lot of societal problems. And I think a lot of conservatives go right to the violence piece. Why do we have so many people that want to blow up their communities, that want to go into schools and kill kids? That has nothing to do really with a law that gets passed.
Right.
That is a soul problem. That's a heart problem.
Right.
And so a lot of conservatives say, we should be dealing with this as a country. Why do we have so many troubled young boys/men who want to go back to schools and kill former classmates and such? It's a terrible thing. And so, but I think that when it comes to the gun piece, my advice to conservatives is hear everyone out. That's what the president did, John. He listened to people. And I think it's a very effective thing to do. Can there be some things that can be modified in regulations? Perhaps. I happen to think that the gun show loophole is really just about, it's not about background checks on guns. It's about shutting down gun shows. That's a shame. There's no need for that. That would be a mistake. By the way, there's a lot of people who earn their living going to gun shows. There's nothing wrong with adding more money. Liberals love to spend money. Let's add more money to make sure that those background checks can be done. Just like when I go to buy a shotgun at a gun dealer, I have to wait to have my background check done. If you're going to meet the president or the vice president, you have to wait. And they do a background check on you to make sure that you're not somebody who's a problem. The same thing is true. The same thing should be true when you go to a gun show. You should have to wait to get the purchase. But the government shouldn't be incompetent and make you wait so much that you can't get the gun at the gun show. So I think there's some solutions still. And there's solutions even the most ardent defenders of the Second Amendment would be comfortable with. But nobody should deceive themselves. An assault weapons ban, and that's once again a term of the left. These things aren't going to solve any of the violence problems, which means we're not going to solve any of the problems. So, we can take some common sense steps, but what is wrong with America? We got to ask ourselves that. And I just think, the idea that we're more secular, the idea that we're more into our telephones and not into our neighbors and our communities, and the fact that, we do kind of leave people alone when they're troubled, but if someone's troubled, maybe it's okay to call the authorities and say, look, this person's exhibiting a lot of strange behavior. There's got to be tip-offs.
Well, it's almost like the mantra that was started, see something, say something, right?
No.
With the terrorist attacks, and now people are kind of into that, whether you're on a train or a bus or you're at an airport, see something, say something.
Yeah.
Maybe the same thing should go on in the schools. We're with the chairman of the ACU, the American Conservative Union. He's also the head honcho in putting on the 2018 Conservative Political Action Conference. ACU, what a tremendous history it's had.
Amazing.
I remember the first CPAC I went to, M. Stanton Evans was the
What a great man.
It's M. Stanton Evans, and the featured speaker was Governor Reagan in 75. He was going to run for president, and then one of the other speakers was a senator from New York, conservative senator James L. Buckley.
Wow.
So that was like the two
lineup. Yeah,
that was the two bookend speakers back then. It was a long time ago. Phil Crane was there. See how my memory goes back?
See, and a lot of these people aren't with us anymore. We lost Stan Evans. We lost Phil Crane.
Yeah.
So it's important that we hold on to our history, John. And it's a great history. We, as ACU, we went to Jerusalem this year.
Right.
We went to Tokyo and had our first international CPAC. A lot of people who are wondering if they're conservatives in other countries, they're checking in with us and saying, how do we have a movement like this here? Yes, the conference is great, but it's the movement behind it that's even greater.
Yep.
And these people want to see this happen in their country. That's why we have Marine Le Pen coming. That's why Nigel Farage is back again. That's why when the Japanese Conservative Union, you'll see them walking around. people are really curious. How do they get this genie in a bottle? How do they get this thing?
I love Matt Schlapp, what you've done in internationalizing.
Yeah.
CPAC, I never thought I would see that, but you've done a fabulous job at that. Matt, let's talk about politics for a couple minutes. I know you have to take off. If you believe in history and math, and you look at the number of Republican House members that have bailed on 2018, and you just look at a map and you look at the districts, you say to yourself, oh my goodness, how are the Republicans going to hang on to keep the majority in the House? Do you think they still have a chance and can potentially do that? And how?
Yeah, no, I think it is a left-wing tactic and a tactic of the left-wing media about a year out from elections to say that the Republicans are so radical or radioactive or hated that they're going to get killed. This happens, if you go back and look at the coverage, this happens right around this time almost every time. They said Donald Trump, there's no way he could win. I remember they said, look where he is with women, look where he is with Hispanics, look where he is with African Americans, look where he is with suburban voters. He can't win. Well, he won. And what we find with Republicans is they have to overcome that coverage. They have to overcome a lot of those polls. What I would invite everyone to think about is the following, which is when you use the word approval with Donald Trump, it doesn't exactly work. Because even his manner is sometimes off-putting to certain people, let's be honest.
Right.
So they don't necessarily approve of him or everything about him, but they love what he's doing.
Right.
The same thing for the Republican Party. You know, the Republican Party is sometimes hard to love sometimes.
Right.
But do you like what they're trying to do? Do you like the idea that they want to give you health care choices? Do you like the idea that they want those premiums down? Do you like the idea that they believe that you should hold on to more of your money? When Nancy Pelosi calls your money that you earn crumbs, you know what I mean? Does that offend you?
Right.
If you think about how this is all stacking up on the issues that matter, it all comes down to security. Do you feel greater economic security? Do you feel like America is projecting its security abroad and protecting its people? And is the president doing a good job with that?
Right.
Those are good answers for us. And if that's the ground that we fight the political war on in November, I think we're going to be just fine. Now, the Senate is dangling by one seat. And I do think the Republicans will lose a significant number of seats in the House. So no matter what happens, we're going to roll out in November, hopefully with majorities, but they're going to be slender.
They're going to be small. I think the best chance in the House, the way I look at it, is the Republicans hang on by a handful, under 5. I mean, you just look at historic trends, and it doesn't favor the party that takes over the next year in. They'll lose an average of about 25.
We don't like people to get too cocky in politics.
Yeah.
Keep them honest, right?
That's right. Keep them honest. So I think if the Republicans do hang on, it's going to be by 1, 2, or 3 perhaps, so we could be up late.
We've been there before with Speaker Hastert, and
that's right.
We had a hand, I think it was 7 or 8 was the majority, and it was something interesting happened to the Republicans in the House. They started working more as a team because they couldn't afford to have people walk away. So you'd be surprised sometimes when your majority is smaller, you actually do a better job of standing up for the values that you ran on.
I mean, we could legitimately see a scenario going into January 2019 where both the House and the Senate are controlled by Republicans by 1 vote. That is a distinct possibility that could happen. That would be the first time in history. That would be certainly interesting, Matt.
And that means the oldest Republican in both chambers will get a lot of press attention.
That's right. That's right. Just got a couple more minutes with the CEO and president. I always change your title, Matt, of the American
You can give me any title you want,
I give you
John.
any title you want. Also,
I'm the guy who has to pay the bills when this thing's over.
Also, the chairman of the 2018 Conservative Political Action Conference. You got some big speakers here. The vice president.
Today is an amazing day.
Coming today, right?
Yeah, the vice president's coming today, and I looked at that order of people who are speaking, and it's just one thing. It's one thing after the other, and it's really tight. And we don't even have that many senators and congressmen speaking,
right? Because
it is just so tight. What I think what we're finding is that in the age of Trump, we talk about the energy of the left. I think we're very energized. Everybody wants to be here. Everybody wants to be a part of this. It's not about CPAC. It's about the country.
Right.
Conservatives are really engaged, and I think that's a really positive thing. And I just love the fact, and you understand this, John, because you've been here so many years. It's expensive to come here.
It really is.
Look, the tickets are not as cheap as I'd like them to be because this hotel is a premium big thing.
Sure.
Premium hotel. You got to get an airline ticket or a train ticket, or you got to fill up your car with gas, and it's a couple grand by the time you get your hotel rooms and everything else. And the fact that so many people just pour in, from every state, but also now we got people coming in from overseas. I just feel like there's a movement not only in this country, but around the globe for these common sense ideas, which are, it's okay to be a nation state and to be proud and patriotic about your nation.
Yes.
That's what Nigel Farage believes.
Right.
That's what Ms. Le Pen believes. It's like, I'm French and I'm proud of it. Right. Now, I don't understand that because I'm an American, and sometimes I look down my nose at the French.
Right.
But I'm proud of being an American, and I don't want to give my sovereignty to any international body for any reason, really, at any time. Exactly. I don't mind meeting with people and talking to them and collaborating. And the same deal on these trade deals. People are going to move to bilateral trade deals. They don't want to do these multinational trade deals and then turn over the adjudication of the problems to an international body, because all you're doing is sifting away your sovereignty. And what's the problem with that? Well, the problem with that, if you're sitting in a small town in Ohio and you see the jobs dry up and you feel depressed and you feel like you've got no hope, then people start to go down bad paths. Is it drugs? Is it violence? Do they reach out? I actually think our solutions are tied. Our problems and solving them are tied to solving some of these very basic political questions. And I'm hopeful that that's happening with our important allies across the globe as well.
Well, you're certainly doing your part during this conference and getting people together, conservatives together, the international conservative movement, which I think is a brilliant gesture on your part to get them involved. But you're right. I mean, the investment's high. I remember the first one I came to in 75 was through Young Americas for Freedom, the old
great group.
YAF.
Yep.
And
YAF is back.
We paid very little, but they put us up in dormitories at the University of Maryland and then had a bus shuttle us over. I forget where it was, downtown D.C. someplace. Very long time ago. Very different.
How many people would have been at the very first CPAC you went to?
It was at a Hilton or a Hyatt downtown. I think it was at the Hilton, and it was not very big.
Hundreds, not thousands?
Yes.
So we went to...
Yes, hundreds.
We went to Tokyo, and they had 500 people over 2 days. And I think they wanted more people. And I said, 500 over 2 days?
That's
You're
really
right
good.
On the path to glory, man.
No,
because that's how it all starts.
I think in 75 there was maybe a couple hundred people there, if that. And a lot of them, I was 18 at the time, a lot of them my age from YAF. And had Reagan not been the speaker on, I think, Saturday night, back then the feature speaker was Saturday, had Reagan not been Governor Reagan had not been the speaker on Saturday, it probably would have been about 150.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It is. And I don't know how this popped up, but I remember the other speaker who was there was former Texas Governor John Connolly, who had just changed parties. I remember that.
Wow.
How I do, I don't know.
Wow.
We're out of time. I want to thank Matt Schlapp for being with us, the head honcho of the 2018 Conservative Political Action Conference and the chairman, president, CEO, and all good things from the American Conservative Union. Matt, thanks for being with us.
John, it's a pleasure to watch you on the tube. It's a pleasure to be on your show. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
Okay.